What's up, Utah High School Hoops fans? This is an interview that I did with Ryan Gardner for my People of Packaging podcast. You hear us talk a lot about packaging, but I want to share it here because Bucked Up was one of the sponsors at Hoop Fest, and today can be Bucked Up Friday if you use code CEO50. That's code CEO50. Go to their site. If you're watching this, you already know they've got great products. They've got vitamins, they've got supplements, they've got pre-workout, they've got clothes, they've got all sorts of great stuff there. Go to Bucked Up today, stock up for your athletes, stock up for yourself, change the game. If you want to, go ahead and check out this interview that I did with Ryan. It's fascinating. Their story is great. But we do talk a lot about packaging. It's just fair warning. But I want to get this out so you knew about the discount. You knew what you could go do. CEO50 over at buckedup.com. This is the Utah High School Hoops podcast, your source for sometimes informative, but always entertaining coverage of the Utah High School hoops scene. With your host, Adam Meek. All right, everybody, I am here in a beautiful office in lovely Orem, Utah, with Ryan Gardner. And Ryan, it's been cool because I've been following Bucked Up for a while now. So I've lived in Utah for about as long as this podcast has been going on. It's hard to not know about Bucked Up here in Utah, but realizing that this is a bigger podcast, I thought it would be awesome to be able to introduce you to maybe some people who don't know about Bucked Up, or maybe they've seen your product and they're like, I don't really know much about it, or I don't really understand the story. It's just another fad or whatever it might be. So I'm excited to jump in. I don't get to do a lot of these live in person, so this is really fun for me.
Most of them are Zoom. And stuff like that.
Yeah, lots of them are online. And it's hard for me to fly around the world doing it in person. So driving from West Jordan, which is just northeast of South Jordan, I found. Down here was super fun. So I'm joined here by Ryan Gardner. You're the co-founder.
I am the co-founder and CEO of Bucked Up right now.
Sweet.
So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. How many packaging podcasts have you done?
I haven't done any packaging podcasts, so this is a great opportunity for me to be on.
I find it's interesting because I talk with people who are like packaging engineers and like packaging designers, and they're used to talking about packaging. It's really cool to be able to talk with people like yourself. And I had, Sean Riley from Dude Wipes, Mark Samuel from I1 Organics, and then Erica Rankin recently from Brodo, if you're familiar with her. It's just neat to have founders of companies because you think about your packaging a lot, but you don't probably get asked to talk about it all that often.
Right.
And so it's probably this thing that occupies a lot of brain space, especially when it goes bad, that you talk about internally. And now you have an avenue to chat about it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And what's interesting about packaging is I think that's really it's like your first impression to people. So I want to make sure I nail it. And so, it's kind of going, hey, this has to look really, really good on a shelf in order for somebody to pick it up, or it needs to look different or be innovative in order for someone to pick it up.
100%. And we're going to
dive into that.
We're going to dive all into it and there's one really cool one that I want to get to as well.
Okay.
But I say this before a lot. It's called the People of Packaging. And I started this because I'm fascinated by people. I'm a pastor by trade. So I just love getting to know people and hear their stories. And so that's naturally where I gravitate towards. And so you've told me the story once about how you started Bucked Up. And I'm sure it's out there in the internet as well, but let's start
on a few podcasts.
Yeah. But I'd love for you to share
one, though.
0 packaging podcasts so far. I've got a whole network of packaging people though, if you want to talk to all of them. So let's hear the story. Tell me a little bit about how you started it.
We were basically born and raised in Clearfield, Utah, just north of Salt Lake City. And so we were born and raised on a farm, and we realized, I run Bucked Up with an identical twin brother, Jeff. So that's something that that's our little secret sauce. It's like we have 2 CEOs that work here, so.
Wait, how do I know that you're not Jeff?
You're going to have to take your chances. Or I get called Jeff just as much as I get called Ryan. So either way.
You don't know this about me, and I've never said this on the podcast, but I have identical twin sisters, actually.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Who used to occasionally would take each other's high school tests. Sorry, Lewis Palmer Rangers, but
our father is an identical twin as well. And so he said, take advantage of whatever you can and when you can. So Jeff and I were switching classes. We dated different girls in college. You know, we would switch in the middle of the day. It was awesome. So
that's amazing.
We had as much fun as possible being a twin and taking advantage of it. So we were born and raised in Clearfield, Utah. We were born and raised on a farm. We realized, hey, farm life isn't what we want to do for the rest of our life. We know exactly what it takes to take care of horses, cows, chickens, the whole bit. And so after our missions, we served a mission for our church here in Utah, which is the most common mission that most people serve.
Sure.
But, so we ended up coming back and we came down to UVU and started school at UVU. And we realized, hey, school was not for us. I went and started working with some of my missionary buddies that I had become really close friends with. And they were working on a sales floor and they were answering phones, or they were calling on leads, and they were on the phone selling packages of $5,000 to $20,000 for coaching and mentoring, like how to, make money in real estate or make money online with your own website and everything like that. So like multiple streams of income.
Sure.
So I said to myself, the guy who's making all of the money is the guy providing the leads to us. So these were people who were going to a seminar or were online, and they would drive traffic to a website and they would get these leads. And then we would call and follow up on those leads. And I'm like, man, those guys are the ones that are killing it. Well, next time a lead provider came in, I asked him for a job. I said, I don't want to be on the phone for the rest of my life. I want to learn how to drive traffic and produce leads. He goes, it's funny that you say that because I don't know what I'm doing. I just happened to put a little banner on a free lotto site, and every 100 people that come to the site, I know I get a sell. And then I take that lead or that customer and I send them to you guys. So I went down to St. George, Utah right away, and I learned how to drive traffic online through people who had an email list or a website, or I basically became a media buyer. And what happened is I learned how to drive traffic. I kind of hit a ceiling where I was at. I came back up here and said to Jeff, hey, we need to start this lead generation business. And we called it Big Payout. And so we had a company that was called Big Payout, and we had an affiliate network where we had thousands of publishers that could all drive traffic. So a person would come to me with a product or a service, and they'd say, hey, I got this product. Could you drive traffic to my website? And we were like, yes, you need to do this, 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 and this to your website. And we'll drive traffic and we'll charge you, let's say $40 for every sale we get you. And I would just turn around to my publishers and say, hey, I'll pay you $30 for every sale I get you.
Got it.
And so I was kind of a broker, or the middleman, right?
Sure.
I was hooking up the advertiser with the publisher. Then one day my dad said, hey, you really need to talk to this guy. He has a product called L-Arginine Plus. And we were like, oh yeah, what is it? And he goes, it's helping me with my blood pressure. It's a vasodilator and opens up my vessels, and it allows my blood to flow a little more easy. So I'm currently on blood pressure medication, and it makes me take a little bit less of my blood pressure medication. I'm like, wow, okay. And he goes, he's doing about, $500 to $700 a day online. And I told him he needs to come talk to you guys, that you guys would put him on steroids. We ended up having a meeting with this guy. And at the end of the meeting, Jeff and I own 50% of this company.
Wow.
Called L-Arginine Plus. And we told him, hey, all we want you to do is make sure you can handle the manufacturing, that you keep the product in stock. We'll drive all the traffic. We created a brand new website, and we started driving traffic. And then within 3 to 4 weeks, we were doing about $3,000 a day.
Jeez.
So we were like, wow, this is pretty cool. We could build a brand around L-Arginine. Well, one day we were like, hey, Google's rewarding all these people who are buying exact match domains.
Okay.
And we were like, well, let's go take a look. I went online and I found out that the person who owned larginine.com was in the UK. I contacted him and I said, how much for larginine.com? And he goes, it's $35,000. And I'm like, wait, $35,000 for the domain name, and you're not even selling anything on it? He goes, nope. And I'm like, well, I went back to Jeff and the other partner and said, hey, how fast, look, Google's rewarding you for ranking number one. I mean,
Right.
for exact match, whatever they search and having that exact match domain, they're rewarding you. Maybe we should get this. And that was a pretty big leap of faith for us to do. We ended up buying it for $25,000, and immediately we started ranking number one.
Okay.
And we were the first one to actually sell a product on Google. The other ones were like WebMD and a few other, source,
When was this? Approximately
this was 2012.
Okay.
2012, we started doing supplements.
Got
That's
it.
really when we started doing supplements. And, about 3 or 4 months after we purchased the domain name, Google shut down all the pay-per-click because people were pay-per-clicking things like L-arginine to help with erectile dysfunction or whatever. And so they took all of that down because they're like, hey, we can't have people saying that, hey, heart medication and all this. So it was kind of like big pharma shutting down all of that.
Okay.
Well, because we were number one, we got all the volume from all those people who were searching for L-arginine. We got all the volume. So we were selling and we were continually cranking and doing really, really well. Well, a short time later, we read an article in Sports Illustrated that says deer antler spray is banned in Major League Baseball. And we're like, deer antler spray? What's that?
Yeah.
What's deer antler spray? And we read about it and we realized that it was an ingredient that helps people recover really, really quick. And athletes, they felt like it give an athlete an edge. So they banned it in professional sports.
Huh.
Even today, it's still banned in the NFL and college.
Okay.
So it's still banned. Deer antler velvet extract or deer antler spray is still banned because they feel like it can give an athlete an edge. But it's not like it's something that could actually show up on a drug test or anything. And it's not banned by the FDA. Not everyone's an athlete,
Sure.
But, they ban like other things, like pre-workouts, they wouldn't want an athlete to take either. You know what I mean? Or
Got
caffeine enough, if they take enough caffeine.
Sure.
So we read that article in Sports Illustrated. We said, oh, this could be another L-arginine product. We went out and looked at the domain name and it was $8 for
significantly less.
deerantlerspray.com. So we hurried up and bought it. I found a manufacturer in Florida that could produce, and I had them produce 3,500 bottles, which was the minimum order quantity.
When you say bottles, so on the L-arginine and now on the deer antler spray, are these like are these capsulated or is it powder?
So
or what were you doing?
L-arginine was a powder that they would just mix.
Okay.
You would mix in water.
Okay.
Just like you would a pre-workout.
Got
know
it.
what I mean? So it was a powder, but the deer antler spray was actually a spray.
It was
that
an
you
actual
spray
spray.
right under your tongue.
Duh.
Yeah.
It's called deer antler spray.
And you would spray it right under your tongue and you would hold it there for 20 or 30 seconds to let it absorb sublingually.
Okay.
And then you could, swallow it.
Got it. Okay.
But that's essentially what we did is with deer antler spray, we went out and got 3,500 bottles made. And we were like, hey, we're off to the races. Well, we didn't realize not a whole lot of people were reading the article in Sports Illustrated about deer antler spray. We were selling maybe 10 to 12, maybe a dozen bottles a day.
Okay.
And we were like, man, we better hope we can sell all this before they expire.
Right.
Well, about 5 or 6 months later, Ray Lewis gets accused of taking it right before the Super Bowl. And all of a sudden, our sales in one day, we sold the rest of our bottles. Like we had like 2,600 or 2,700 bottles left at that time. It was about 8 months later that we launched. And we sold all of the bottles in one day because ESPN would keep announcing that Ray Lewis gets accused of taking deer antler spray. And we sold all of our bottles in one day.
Jeez.
So the very next day, GNC calls us and says, how fast can you fulfill 30,000 bottles? Because they could bring it in because, hey, it's not a banned ingredient by any means, but we need it. And so they told us they would skip all the red tape. They would bring it in right away. So we said, yeah, we can let me call. So I called the manufacturer and I said, hey, this is Ryan with deer antler spray. He goes, I thought I'd be hearing from you. How many do you need? And I said, I need 30,000 to fulfill the GNC order and a couple, obviously maybe 20,000 more to fulfill the
online orders
and everything else that we were getting. So that's how we started. And then we started going to expos and we saw that everybody was selling pre-workouts and we were like, what's a pre-workout? I had never tried a pre-workout in my life. And we were like, but pre-workout, everybody's taking a pre-workout. Well, let's come out with a pre-workout and let's call it Bucked Up. Let's stick along with the deer theme and call it Bucked Up. I immediately went to GoDaddy. Sure enough, Bucked Up was available for $1,500. And because of our experience in the past with domain names, I didn't negotiate. I didn't call. I just said purchase. Now, there's a guy out there that owns like Bucked Up apparel that never bought buckedup.com, which was crazy, you know? So we ended up buying buckedup.com for $1,500. And we came out with a product, a pre-workout that we said, hey, this is a non-proprietary blend. And this was January of 2016. Everybody was using a proprietary blend. And what that means is they were hiding exactly, they would just put all the products in one and say, here's the amount that we're using. Whereas we came out and they said, hey, we're going to use we're coming out with a game-changing formula. We're going to tell you exactly how much ingredient we're putting in each one, and we're going to use the clinical dose. And that's why we probably took off. Plus, we also had the experience with marketing. And that's when we came out. So in January of 2016, we came out with 1,000 bottles of Bucked Up. We went to an expo down at LA Fit Expo, and we sold all 1,000 bottles that expo.
That's awesome.
And we were like, man, maybe we were onto something. And that's how it started.
And you were still doing the deer antler spray and the what was it? L-arginine plus. Mm-hmm. Are those? Well, are those entities still around, or are they all kind of been merged?
No,
under
so
the
like
Bucked
L-arginine plus, a manufacturer came in and said, hey, you're producing about 50,000 bottles a month. We would like to just buy it.
Oh, okay.
Because we want the manufacturing. So we said, sure.
Yeah.
And we'll focus on Bucked Up.
Got it.
And deer antler spray, we kind of rolled up. That's why it's called DOS Labs, because it was deer antler spray before, but we're like, hey, let's call it the labs, or deer, DOS Labs. You know what I mean? And it actually happened to go along with deer antler spray. Right. So we created we were just coming up with ideas, and we call it, hey, let's call it the labs or DOS Labs,
I just thought you were like fans of the 1990s rap group DOS Effects, maybe.
Oh yeah, we are.
Okay.
That too.
Okay, good. The thing that I think is so cool about that story, and I really appreciate you sharing it, is at every iteration, you said kind of the same thing, which was, we didn't know what that was, but you were open to curiosity and possibilities, right?
Exactly.
That is the coolest thing, is like you start, you're on the floor and you're calling, and you're like, actually, I'm looking around here and I'm going, maybe I want to do what that person's doing. And then you go approach it. It takes a little bit of courage to go approach people. And I've long thought this about, you mentioned going on, being a return missionary. Like the return missionaries that I've met all have a couple of years of pretty high levels of courage based on their experience. And so, being able to kind of take this curiosity and this courage and say, hey, I want to go talk to you. And then, oh, what is this? Let me read about it. Let's go online. It's courage, it's creativity. And then it's also followed by action, right? Like, and so as you're building this out, so you sell your 1,000 bottles and you're like, twin brother Jeff, we've got something here, I think. How did you, were those being made here? Were you making them yourself?
Yeah, we actually just have a local manufacturer that's in Vineyard, Utah, right by Linden.
Yeah.
And we just happen, manufacturing is pretty great here in Utah.
Yep.
Thanks to Orrin Hatch. And, we could throw a rock and hit 10 manufacturers here in Utah. They're a dime a dozen. They're a lot, but
there's a lot of them.
Went to a couple different manufacturers and found a really great manufacturer. He also does his own products on Amazon, probably one of the top sellers on Amazon, does hundreds of millions of dollars on Amazon with single ingredient bottles, like just single ingredient products. But he's great and he's awesome and he's been great to work with. And, actually he came in and became a partner of ours in 2021.
Oh, nice.
When there was a lot of supply chain issues and everything, I saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, man, this is the time that we need, to be in first priority.
Right.
And because we were able to be in first priority and we always had product, all the stores like GNC and Vitamin Shop were able to get product from us where they couldn't get it from other vendors. And we did extremely well during COVID.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes a ton of sense. I've actually been, I didn't know that it was the facility, but I remember my son had a club basketball game. Yep. And I walked in, and I've been in a lot of manufacturing environments. And I walked in, I was immediately like, they're making vitamins in here. Like, because it has a smell, you know, manufacturing and storing and the raw materials and all that. And especially living here in Utah, up and down the Wasatch Front, you know, like you said, there's, I don't know, 100 people that are making different health products. So that's cool. So how did you then, and where are we at here? All right. We're doing okay on time. Okay. So as you start to iterate then beyond that initial product, at what point did you maybe let's talk about your first like packaging. Have you ever had just like a moment where you're trying to come out with an energy drink? You're trying to come out with.
Absolutely. We've had a bunch, like even we're in the process of launching a whole new line of products, and we've had label issues. You know, these are the things where like, hey, how did this happen?
Right.
Right. You know, and you try to set up, you know, standard operating procedures to prevent those things, but sometimes it's out of your control, and a printer just prints something just completely different than what the file that you send over.
Yeah, that's no fun.
But you know, we like to be we like to be innovative. You know, even when we came out with Bucked Up, we did a completely different label, a black can, soft touch top. You know, we came out with something that was really unique to the market, super clean, and it just said Bucked Up. Right. And so we love packaging, and that's something that we pride ourselves in, is that, hey, we like to push the envelope, and we like to push it to the edge and say, hey, you know, this is unique, this is different. And they just want to grab it off the shelf. I mean, I've had guys that were at GNC in Mississippi and Alabama, and they were like, they didn't even care what it was. They just saw that it had a buck on it and they loved it. You know what I mean? So it came down to the packaging, and it came down to how it looked and felt right when they picked it up. And that's what we love about packaging too. And we feel like, you know, like I said, that's the first impression. So we want to do that. Now with cans, we did have a little mishap where we produced at the very first in 2019, before we didn't actually release energy drinks until like end of 2020.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's been pretty recent.
Yeah. Till the end of 2020, really. And we produced 200,000 cans of Bucked Up energy drinks, and we introduced them to FitCon at the FitCon Expo here in Utah.
Yep.
And we realized very quickly that we made a mistake, that there was some bitter notes on the end that we weren't aware of when we were taste testing. And we ended up destroying all 200,000 of those because we felt like we had one shot at it. And, you know, people were at the expo were like, oh, it's good at first, but then it's bitter on the end. Even though it worked exceptionally well, there was some ingredients in there that caused it to taste really, really bitter, and the masking agent would fall off after about 5 days. So we couldn't quite figure it out right away, but we eventually figured it out. And then we launched Bucked Up energy drinks at the end of 2020.
So it's actually a helpful transition. I don't even know if you made it intentionally or not, but talk about having like one shot, right? And so you guys won this award for this buckshot.
Yeah,
I'm pointing to it because it's right here. But I noticed this, and this was kind of part of, I didn't realize you guys had won an award on it or anything like that. But I was at Shields here locally, which I love taking my kids to Shields.
It's a great place
to kill time and walk around. And I end up, buying stuff, but really I love looking at different packaging. And I was like, what is this? Like, and then I saw it in a convenience store. So in Shields, it fits in a little bit and also stands out simultaneously.
Right.
But when you're at, a 7-Eleven or wherever it is, and you see it there next to the other, everything is in the same small container, bottle, shrink sleeve. And it's like, well, I don't really know what the difference is. I'm sure like, the 5 hours, like, okay, I know what that is. But buckshot, you're like, whoa. I mean, it's just, you have this brand that is very like brazen, obviously, and very kind of in your face. And so I didn't realize that you won a packaging award.
Yeah, it
for
was
this.
the 2022 Consumer Convenient Packaging Award for consumer products. So we were at NACS. They gave us, we presented all the new products that we were going to have available for convenience stores, and we won that Consumer Packaging Award for convenience stores. So it was really, and that's kind of a big deal in the consumer, in the convenience store world. And the thing is that I think that this buckshot really stands out. We spend a lot of time with the packaging. For people who don't know what it is, it looks like a shotgun shell, and even, like you say, it's a little brazen, like, hey, are we shooting somebody here or what? And we actually were debating whether to release it because there was a shooting that happened. And we were like, but that's not being shot with a shotgun shell. It's being shot with a AR-15 or, a high powered rifle, but we felt like this packaging was different enough that it would make a difference when it was on the shelf next to like a 5-Hour Energy or all the other competitors. And what's nice is that we're actually seeing that result now. Like we see that wherever we go in, we're competing with 5-Hour Energy with people grabbing this versus a 5-Hour Energy.
Yeah.
And so it's been really helpful to see because all the other players have never been able to do it, to break through and compete with 5-Hour Energy. They're probably doing 5 or 6 times less than like a 5-Hour Energy. And now we're doing about 90% of what 5-Hour Energy does.
That's amazing.
And so we feel like the packaging is unique enough. Our flavors are awesome. They taste great. The product really works. We add real ingredients to help with focus and energy, like Huperzine A, alpha size, a few other ingredients. But the packaging itself causes someone to just pick it up and just feel it and look at it and go, what is this? I want to try it.
And there's a real connection. There's actually a company that I think is awesome. They're called Retail Aware. They're out of Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And, but they have all this data around the connection between somebody picking up your product off the shelf and purchasing it is really
high.
Yeah, it's really high. And you have such a short period of time to grab someone's attention. And, packaging people, we like to think that in some cases we're more important than people realize. And in other cases, we're not as important as people realize. Right. So, as you're mentioning, the ingredients and the flavor profile and all that, and even talking about the failure on your initial launch, I've always said, and I said this to you before we got on the call, packaging can drive initial purchases. It can drive brand awareness. Right. But if your product is not good, then it's
almost like a one and done.
It's just going to, and I've seen this happen, far too many times where it's like you're on the front end of packaging development. You get it all lined up. You do everything right. It protects the product well. And then it's like, well, where are the reorders? It's like, it's not really landing with consumers. And so it's cool when both of those things happen at the same time, when you can merge a great product with an exciting brand with innovative and cool packaging. And it's not even like I'm sure that the design, of the packaging, was not exactly easy, but it just took, again, going back to the original story, a creative mind, a creative question saying, but what if we did this? And so do you and your twin brother, do you guys drive a lot of the new product innovations? You keep your marketing stuff out there. Obviously you have a team of people here who work for you, and they probably all bring their ideas as well, but do a lot of them still just come from you guys?
Yeah, most of them come from us, and we say, hey, this is what we want to do. We kind of give our basic general ideas of what do we want it to look like. And sometimes we're just drawing on a piece of scratch paper and say, hey, do something like this. But we have some really great designers. We do outsource, or we have a team of designers in Brazil that do really, phenomenal work. And that they've helped us with a lot of the branding of the newest, and latest stuff. Like we just released Mother Bucker and a few other of these really extreme names that my parents don't like. But those are the things that, we've used them to help us with our branding, and they're just really high caliber designers. But we like to push it. We like to push the edge. We like it to look different. We like it to look cool, where people want to just grab it.
Yeah.
and hold it.
There's a comedian once, this is before I moved to Utah, and he said, has anyone ever been to Utah on purpose? And he said, it feels like you're trapped in a rated R movie that's been made for TV. It's like some huge guy's like, son of a biscuit basket. It's just, I'm sure that even the irony is funny of like, you know, this like kind of brash out there brand started by
in Utah,
a couple of brothers from Clearfield who are returned missionaries. It's just like, it's a really cool story.
And my parents would never let us say anything to do with the F word, like flip, fetch, you know, the F word. And this was kind of our way of pushing that line, you know, saying bucked up. My parents, they wouldn't even say it at first. They would say, my boys own a supplement company. Now they go, hey, my boys own Bucked Up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it rolls off their tongue a lot easier now.
I love it. I love it. That's so great. Well, I mean, obviously you've talked about buying the domain name so people can go to buckedup.com. Get some products. You've got your new product, Mother Bucker, that just came out.
We're, you know, our energy drinks and our supplements, they're sold all across the country in GNC, Vitamin Shop, Walmart. You can buy everything from creatine, pre-workouts, all of our energy drinks at Walmart. We're nationwide in every store. And then we're pretty much the #1 selling supplements at any supplement store, like mom and pop supplement shop. So we do really well there too. So
find you in retail, find you
can
online.
Find us retail, online. We have a big sale that comes up, you know, every year for Black Friday. It's our only sale of the year, and it's 50% off our whole entire website.
That's amazing. And you've got great merchandise. I got my Bucked Up shirt on.
Thanks for rocking the t-shirt.
Well, yeah, I love it. And it fits really well too. It's not just like crap merchandise, just like, you know, your products, right? Like you got good products that,
you know, we were at the very first of our business, we said, hey, are we an apparel company? Or are we using this as marketing? At first, we only did it to market and promote. And we were like, buy 2 bottles, get a free t-shirt. Last year, we did over $12 million in apparel. In just apparel. And we hate apparel. You know, you have small, medium, large, extra large, double X. And then you got people complaining we don't have 4X. You know what I mean? And then a lot of women's apparel as well. That does really, really well for us. And so, you know, now we're doing both apparel and supplements and energy drinks and accessories. Yeah. It's just, the list goes on and on.
I mean, just knowing, you know, how you got to this point, I think it's just going to be cool to go like, I got to, you know, hang out here, hear your story at this moment in time, but just knowing what I know now, a little bit more about your story, it's like, man, the next 5 years are going to be pretty awesome, right? It's going to be pretty wild. Yeah. So everyone make sure that you connect up with Ryan, follow Bucked Up online. Thank you for coming on my podcast. This has been great. I'm excited to go down to the store. We're going to make some small little short videos about some stuff. It's going to be great. I appreciate it, Ryan.